Today I'm going to be doing the first video of what I hope to be a continuing series of videos focusing on different financial websites and tools I find useful. So I'll get into the tool in just a second, but one of the things I like to pay attention to when building a portfolio using ETFs is the overlap between different ETFs. So this is an interesting thing to look at because sometimes you can invest in different ETFs in an attempt to diversify your holdings, but depending on the ETF, they can actually be extremely similar in some cases, resulting in not much actual diversification occurring. So right now I own 3 dividend-paying ETFs, SPHD, SCHD, and VYMI. So this is something I do want to be just aware of, making sure it actually makes sense for me to be owning multiple dividend-paying ETFs and there's not just extreme overlap and it's really not giving me any benefit or exposure to different companies. So there's a couple of ways you can dig into this. So if you're using Robinhood or many brokerages have similar features, you can just go into the ETF, so just searching the stock ticker, and then scrolling down, and you're going to be able to see, you can see the sector weight as well as the top 10 holdings. You can just go and see the ETF allocation percentages, so we can see SPHD 3.28% is allocated to Altria, 2.92% is allocated to Pfizer. We can go into SCHD, do the exact same thing. You can also, another way to do this is you can just go do a bit of research, use Google, utilizing the ETF Manager's website. So for an ETF like SCHD, I could go to Charles Schwab's website and view the ETF allocation percentages, going through all the holdings, just not the top 10 here. It will include everything. You can view the allocation percentage there and just see exactly what that ETF is holding. Both of these methods are great, and I really do like to know what's actually in many of these ETFs and just driving the performance, not just blindly picking an ETF. Now, the tool I want to showcase today is the ETF Research Center's Fund Overlap tool. I'll include a link down in the description, but ETF Research Center's Fund Overlap tool can be used to provide a quick and easy comparison of 2 ETFs and their overlap. Now, there are different tools I would use to compare the historical performance of the ETFs and make a decision between them, but this is one of my favorites just when assessing the diversification. So just showing off the tool, I'm going to look at 2 ETFs I currently hold in my portfolio. So I'm going to start with SCHD. Then down here, I'm going to put SPHD. Then I'm going to click this Find Overlap button. So just scrolling down, looking at the data here. So there's 16 overlapping holdings representing 26% of the weighted values of the ETFs. The sector drift is kind of another interesting thing to look at. So reading this chart, it takes SCHD's weighted percentages and then subtracts the weighted percentages of SPHD. So when we have a bar going to the right here, that means SCHD is more heavily weighted towards those sectors. So SCHD has more companies in its holdings that just operate in those sectors. So energy, industrials, and technology. And then those bars going to the left, that's going to show what SPHD is more heavily skewed towards, which are primarily real estate and utilities. This makes sense when looking at the different goals and requirements that these ETFs have. SCHD doesn't include any REITs or utilities in its holdings. If companies don't just meet certain dividend growth or balance sheet metrics, SCHD won't even consider them. This is something that you can get many different ETFs that just focus on different sectors. So you can actually you can invest in an ETF that only just focuses on REITs or only focuses on utility companies. But this tool can just be interesting to look at and compare these different ETFs just so you really kind of have a good look at what kind of overlap you're running into. So scrolling down further, you can see the overlap of each position, so you know what you could be double dipping in. So you can see both of these, SCHD and SPHD. They're invested in Altria Group, Verizon Communications, United Parcel Service. You'll need to log in, and you can actually create a free account to the site that you can just view all the holdings. If you're not logged in, you can only view the top 5. But there are other features in the site that do require to pay subscription. But seeing all these holdings in the overlap between them, that is something you can actually get for free if you just sign in with a free account. Now, an example of 2 very overlapping ETFs, we're going to go back up to the top here, is we'll enter SPY and then VOO. So both of these ETFs are meant to track the S&P 500. So this is expected, but if you're trying to create a diversified portfolio, it wouldn't really make sense to invest in both of these because they're practically identical as far as their holdings go. So you can see there's just very high overlap. I mean, they're meant to track the exact same index, so that is very just well expected. Now we can do the inverse by comparing. I'll keep SPY actually up top here. And I'm going to do VYMI. VYMI is a position I recently added to my portfolio. Scrolling down here, there's going to be 0 overlap. This is because VYMI is actually just exclusively focused on dividend-paying companies outside of the U.S., so this position is definitely doing its job as far as that goes. I can switch SPY to like SCHD. We're going to see the same thing just because SCHD is also focused on companies specifically in the U.S. So if I just wanted to get international exposure, that's VYMI is accomplishing its job. That's why I did end up purchasing this ETF, just because I want exposure to companies outside of the U.S. Now that's it for this video. I hope this was informative. Let me know if you enjoyed it, what tools you like to use, and any I should check out. Thanks for watching.